Hey gang, Stephen Marshall, KYLandlordlaw.com, back here on this first day of February with an update on rental assistance here in Lexington and some new proposed legislation that could affect landlords throughout the state of Kentucky. So we'll start off with rental assistance, and as I mentioned in my last update, there are still millions of dollars in rental assistance that are available. But the news here in Lexington is that the Housing Stabilization Program has opened up the application process for tenants to receive a second round of funding. So that means tenants who received HSP funding already are now eligible to receive additional assistance. The caveat is that the tenant may only receive a total of 15 months of assistance. So if you've got a tenant who already received, for example, 10 months of funding, they are now eligible again to apply to receive up to 5 months of additional funding. So it's 15 months total between both the first and second rounds. Now, the same eligibility requirements are in place and the same strings are attached to the money, which means no late fees, no legal fees, and you've got a 75-day waiting period after the money runs out before you can file eviction, and that 75-day period would include a 30-day notice being given. So that's good news. So we've got additional funding opened up for tenants who received funding during the first round. So take advantage of that if you're interested. But as I noted last time, don't make any promises to your tenant about participating in the assistance program unless you're certain you want to accept the money, accept the assistance money with the strings attached. If you decide to pursue the assistance, the court may not allow you to change your mind later. That issue is still kind of unclear, but you want to take it off the table by being very clear with your tenant where you stand. And if you're still uncertain as to whether you want to participate in the assistance process, make that clear to your tenant. Don't tell them that they need to apply and that you'll take it if you want to be able to change your mind later. So be very clear up front about where you are on accepting the assistance. All right, let's shift gears and talk about some legislation. Every year, starting the 1st of January, the Kentucky General Assembly convenes for their legislative session, and they're in full swing. They're in Frankfort right now, and we have some bills that we need to take a look at that could affect landlords. And we'll start with Senate Bill 21. This bill was filed by Senator Reggie Thomas of Lexington, and it would put some pretty significant limits on your ability as a landlord to charge a screening fee to applicants. It's also going to require that you have written screening criteria, which I think is a good idea anyway, but it's going to be legally required that you have that. And it would require additional notices to your applicants about the screening process. And then if you violate any parts of this potential bill, the tenants could recover any screening fee that they pay, plus an additional penalty of $150. So that's got some problems at the beginning part of the bill. That's section 1 that kind of increases the requirements on you as the landlord during the screening process. But the most important part of the bill comes in the second section, and that limits how you as a landlord can use eviction records and criminal records in screening your tenant, and specifically includes limits on the types of crimes and the type of criminal history you can consider in evaluating your applicants. So there's no doubt that this bill is going to make life more difficult for landlords, and I've got a link to the bill in the blog post that accompanies this video. So make sure you go to KYLandlordlaw.com and check out the post that accompanies this video if you want to take a look at the bill in its entirety. So that was Senate Bill 21. Second, let's look at House Bill 159. The next 3 bills that we're going to look at are filed by the same legislator over in Louisville. 159 would expunge all forcible detainer judgments against tenants 1 year after entry. Okay, so after 1 year, those eviction judgments would simply go away as if they never happened. So you're not going to know whether tenants have been evicted based on the court records if that eviction happened more than a year ago. And again, I'll have a link to that bill on the website. Next bill, House Bill 160. That addresses how a landlord is to deal with property that's found in the rental unit that you take possession of. So it's going to require you to store the property, then send a notice to the tenant two ways: via certified mail and by posting a notice on the door for at least 7 days. If the tenant doesn't make reasonable efforts to recover the property within 21 days after the notice, then you can dispose of the property. Now, obviously, that bill creates a host of questions and certainly creates new obligations for landlords. So check out the website if you want to read a copy of that bill regarding quote-unquote abandoned property. And then I've saved the worst for last. This bill has come up the last few years anyway. It's House Bill 152. By far the worst of all the proposed bills. It's a 62-page bill that would completely overhaul Kentucky's Uniform Residential Landlord-Tenant Act. Now, as many of you know, that act only applies currently when an individual city or county government adopts it, and it has been adopted in 19 different jurisdictions in Kentucky, including Lexington and Louisville. But this bill would completely overhaul that act, and life would immediately get much more complicated for landlords and tenants if this bill gets passed. And I can assure you the only winners if this bill gets passed are the attorneys who would get to bill their clients to figure out what this act means and how it's going to be applied in individual circumstances. And again, I'll have a link to that entire 62-page bill on kylandlordlaw.com. Now, the good news is most of these bills are unlikely to move. Most of them have been sent to committee and have been stuck in committee, but they're certainly worth paying attention to and monitoring, and it's certainly worth making a call to your state legislators to voice your opinion on these bills. And I'll have a link on my website to how you can find your state legislator if you don't know who it is already. So that's it for today. Quick updates on rental assistance and some legislation to be aware of. If you need any help with these issues or others, make sure you reach out to your friendly neighborhood attorney. If you'd like to work with me, I'm at smarshall@trippleslaw.com. smarshall@trippleslaw.com. That's it for today. Have a great rest of your week.